You would think that if you wanted to develop your gifts, those things that you have that you are really trying to strengthen, that it would be easy. Although what we find is that every day there are more and more people who are sharing all the different ways you could, where you could, and why you should try to develop those gifts. So there are some challenges. We'll discuss developing your gifts, the challenges, and more on episode 727 of today's Antidote. If you have some challenges that you'd like to share, please share them as it might make a difference. So think about them now, and we'll be back to you in just a minute.
Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Hey, Tom. Good morning.
Good morning, Bob. How are you today?
I'm good. Have you noticed I like to hold a pen in my hand? I find it very calming.
Interesting. Really?
Not that I get nervous, but I like having a pen in my hand.
It's funny. For the longest time, I had like 3 batteries, AAA or AA batteries, that would sit by my keyboard. And occasionally I would find myself in this show and sometimes on calls, just like getting them and rolling them through my hand as a, I don't know why. It just was like a comfort thing.
Yeah. A pen in my hand. I like to play with it and spin it, and I'll write down notes every now and then of something you say.
During our show,
you discoveries of the week tomorrow, and I like to. I'm trying more and more to have something actually prepared for that, because it is my favorite episode.
I do know that. I just didn't know that you were trying to have something prepared.
Yeah,
I kind of like the on the fly sort of, as you can probably tell.
So true. Oh so my. True.
All right, everyone. Good morning and welcome to today's Antidote, our daily broadcast and podcast. Each week, Bob and I will have a conversation around a topic. This week, our topic is developing your gifts, as I mentioned in the intro. And today we're going to discuss the challenges that go along with that. And as we have that discussion, if you have any thoughts or ideas that you would like to share or challenges that you're facing, we would love to hear them because we'd like to help you figure out how to take your next step. You can share those in the comments of whatever social media you happen to be following us on, whether it is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, or
LinkedIn Live, baby.
I don't know why I like to do that fast. I think it's a matter of, for those on the podcast who maybe have never known, Bob puts his fingers out and counts. So I try to, go fast to see how quickly he can keep up.
It is difficult.
One of these days, I'm going to throw it at you and I'm going to slow it really down. We'll see.
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
Or maybe one day I'll leave them out. That would really, I think if you didn't get a chance to say LinkedIn Live, baby, the show just wouldn't be the same. So
I think you might be right.
Anyhow, we would love to hear your thoughts and ideas because we know it'll add value to our show. And at the conclusion of the conversation, Bob and I will each offer our one thing, our today's antidote. That thing that we hope will help you figure out maybe if you're stuck on trying to figure out how to develop your gifts or where to go to do it or how to do it or with whom to do it. They'll help you take your next step along your own unique pathway to the success that you desire. So you can also, of course, feel free to share your antidote because you may have just the thing someone else is searching for that we don't have and we aren't sharing at the moment that might help them figure out how to move forward and get unstuck. Before we dive into our conversation, though, every morning, Bob and I start with our celebrations. Bob, what are you celebrating today?
I'm going to celebrate one of our Renegade Success Network members that we were talking to yesterday. We have a check-in and check-up with them every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And we were talking to him, and he was saying that he was getting through a busy stretch of work. And he was going to go, you really led him to, how are you going to celebrate that you accomplished what you accomplished? And he was like, I don't know. And then he said he was going to go out and have a beverage, I think, at a brewery or at some sort of beverage. And I think you or I asked him to send a picture of it. And last night around 7, 8 o'clock, I think, maybe a little earlier, there was a photo that came over my text that was him celebrating. And it just, for me, it was the highlight of the day, because we talk about celebrating. And as you said to me before the program this morning, he really looked like he was relaxed and enjoying himself. And he had done the hard work, and it was nice that he was able to go out and celebrate it and capture it in a photo. Because to me, that said to me last night that the work you and I do really makes a difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
it'd be a great way for him to figure out how to put that in a post in some social media.
Yeah.
That would be the next big step for this person, because that's
Yes.
not their typical approach, and it would be interesting. I like that.
How about you?
So mine, interestingly enough, on this week when we're discussing developing your gifts, I had volunteered with my alma mater, Hamilton College, quick plug, to serve as a mentor in their pitch competition. So they have some alumnus who's put up some money to allow students, and actually young alumni, recent graduates, to put together some entrepreneurial project and make a pitch to whoever the judges are, I forget.
Okay.
And so they ask alumni to serve as mentors with the students. And so I got the chance yesterday to have my first conversation with the student. And the fascinating thing about it was interesting, because the person started off by saying, I know this is going to be a failure. And you know how that goes with me. So I let him go for a little bit and talk about it. And I was glad I did. I mean, eventually we had the conversation about failure. And I think sometimes, like you said, wow, my mind is just, I think his mind was spinning when we started having some of those conversations. When I started sharing with him a little bit about me. Anyhow, he was saying that he's a first-year student. And I think his feeling is like, I'm not going to win this competition. I'm in it to learn, which I thought was fascinating. That was his goal. As you know, with me, that's a big thing. And so yet he was willing to see this as a multi-year project.
Mm-hmm.
And something that he might be, he for 4 years might be in this pitch competition, pitching the exact same project, just in different ways. And it was just interesting to me that it wasn't about the results, and that someone at that age could be at that point where they could do something just in an effort to learn, and not be as focused on, well, I could really use the money because this thing is going to go, and I know this is a great idea, and I know, and I don't know. I wanted to celebrate that today, because I think so often we are so result focused, especially it seems like younger people are more results focused, that it was heartwarming, enjoyable to have this conversation with a student who was all about, how can I learn through this process? Nice.
And those pitch competitions, I dealt with a lot of those when I was teaching at one point, and they make a big difference. The process and the skills that the kids develop really enables them to go out into the work world with such an advantage. I wish I had that structure when I was in college, because I would be in a different place now, I know, in profound ways, just having had some of those experiences and some of the discussions.
Maybe it'd be different.
Yeah. So, all right.
Excited about helping. It was cool to listen to him talk about he had one option that he shared with me about what he wanted to do, because he initially thought that no one else was doing this. And then as he was doing some research, he discovered that there is someone else out there like that. And so that was a little discouraging for him. And I said, well, you can't go very far from a McDonald's before you find a Wendy's, or a Burger King. And, then you've got Wendy's and Hardee's and all the other flavors of it, because people find something that works, and then it's like, how can I do it a little different? What's my spin on it? And so I think that was more reassuring for him. And then he had this other wacky idea that was more around what he's passionate about, So we had a conversation around that, and it was
You're allowed to use adjectives now. You can use wacky.
yeah,
Interesting.
good point. Fair point.
No,
It was a different idea.
I just, it seems like
I like that.
a judgment.
Now, how many episodes? 727. You're catching up. Catching on to my process. So anyhow, I don't want to get too much into it because it'll probably show up.
Because you might use another adjective.
Because it might show up in the conversation today. So why don't we dive right into that conversation? I probably could have just kept going from just started the conversation rather than having to introduce it. And we're talking about developing your gifts and the challenges. Thoughts, Bob?
Well, first of all, you always have this fear, at least I always have this fear that I might be developing the wrong gifts, or what I think is a gift might not be a gift. Like I'd like to say I have a pretty good sense of humor. There have been times in my career where people have said, hey, you know what? Don't bring that to the table. There are other times when people say, I know you like to ask a lot of questions. Do me a favor, don't do that. So there's that tug of war there about how you play it. And I think another challenge as I think through it is, as we develop our gifts, we change as people. And as we change as people, that has a ripple effect that can affect how other people interact with us and how we interact with them. And just because I'm getting better as a leader, I can remember I had a job where I was a team member and then I became a leader. And that shift to being a leader, even though I had some good leadership skills, was really difficult because suddenly I'm developing a different role and the other people are jealous. They're frustrated. I'm not going to lunch with them anymore. I'm not goofing off with them 10 minutes before work starts because I've got leader stuff I've got to deal with. I'm at other meetings than that they aren't at. So there was that trickle down effect of that. And I don't think we often think about how that can affect things and how that can change our interactions. And then the other challenge is as I develop one gift, like I'll give the example I've used a lot this week, guitar playing. As I've developed my guitar playing, I find new challenges. It's not static. And two, I find other complementary gifts that I want to now learn as well. Like I've been trying to work on playing the guitar and singing at the same time, which you would think would not be as hard. It takes some art. And then I really want to get to the place where I can stand up, play the guitar and sing. I've never played my guitar standing up. So as I develop one gift and the second gift, then there's another gift to develop. And there's never a moment where you go, all right, I'm at the end, Tom. I've developed all my gifts. I'm perfect. And I solve all the problems. It's an ongoing process, which can be very exciting, but also very frustrating at times, at least to me.
Absolutely. Well, it's that thought that, and one of the reasons why I don't like perfect is we're always chasing it. We're always trying to find it, because there's always some other thing you could add. There are people out there who are playing guitar, standing up, singing, and playing a harmonica. It's all those things of like, how do you want to take it? Where, at what point do you
pull Bob Dylan out?
Thought you'd enjoy being compared to Bob Dylan. No?
Or Alanis Morissette.
Morissette. So it's a matter of, and some of it's about, how does that make you different? How does that continue to make you unique? Is that you're trying to continue to do something to further what this is, and that others have chosen not to for whatever reason, and without judgment. And I think that's can be challenging. Like, how far do you want to push? And that could be a challenge for you, is like, okay, how far along do I want to push this guitar thing? Because if I choose to do that, what other gift am I now taking time away from that I could also be trying to do that? And I think that's a huge challenge for people, is to understand, like, which are the gifts that I'm going to try to really move forward. Because, of course, judgment comes into it. Like you said at the start, And I think that that's a really challenging opportunity, that people just get in there and feel like they don't commit to one because of fear that they have chosen the incorrect one. And I think that the other thing that goes along with that is the style. Who is the mentor that's going to help you? Where are you going to go to do it? What's the method that you're going to follow? And I think all of those options make it even more challenging to decide. If you really sit down in it and start to think about the opportunities, sometimes it can make it even more difficult to figure out which one you want to move with. Like I was having this conversation with this student yesterday, and I asked him, like, what do you think about the two different options? And he made a decision fairly quickly. And I said, okay. I said, and I'd also like to encourage you to think about it a little bit. Take some time and try to understand, like, which one are you choosing and why are you choosing that? And a little bit about, like, what are the opportunities that provides, and also what are the obstacles that's going to create. And while I didn't at the time thought that was helpful, that may have been more challenging and more confusing as you get into it and you go through all those things. Because as I've said before, with every opportunity, there are obstacles. And so, you start to think, okay, I'm going down the path that I'd like to choose. And then you realize, oh, wait a minute, there's this obstacle, this obstacle, this obstacle. And just trying to decide between the two. I was talking with a client yesterday, about a team member that they supervise, that they've struggled with some of the things that this team member has done, and at the same time the team member is really great at their role. And that's a challenging thing, is to figure out if you're going to move an organization forward, which is really about developing a gift that you're in charge of. You have to decide, is this which value is more beneficial to the organization. Do we take these gifts, or knowing if we take these gifts, we're dealing with these other challenges on the other side of it. And so I think that there's so many options out there that it's hard to really decide, like, okay, I'm going to choose, go back to your guitar playing. I'm going to choose this coach to go listen to. I'm going to watch this YouTube video, which if you probably searched on YouTube for guitar lessons, how many videos are there out there?
Millions.
And so you've got to figure out, like, okay, who is the person? Why am I choosing this person? What is the rationale behind it? And, many times you make those choices and then you find another one that you're like, oh, maybe I wish I had done that instead.
Or the situation changes. In work, you have a leader and you're developing skills that support that leader. And then that leader goes to a different role somewhere. And suddenly you have a new leader, and your gifts that you were developing, they have many of them. And now you're developing a different set of gifts. It's not static. It's not like, I always laugh because on LinkedIn, you can put what your skills are and people can say how great you are at certain skills. And I always think it's kind of funny because there are people that are talking about my press release writing skills. I've written one press release in like the last 2 years. There was a time in my career where I did it all the time. I can do it. I could write a press release right now. But that's not a skill that is in demand in any way in where I am right now. A skill I developed over years. And then there are other skills that, like, public speaking, where if someone marks that for me right now, it's like, ooh, okay, that's really helpful. And those are both skills that I've worked on a lot in my career, but it's just situationally. You might know, well, he gets on podcasts with me every day and he seems coherent. He's a good public speaker. You may
I don't know about that, but okay.
All right, fair enough. I used an adjective. That's what threw you. I'm a public speaker. And then you might not know that I write press releases because you would have no reason to know that with me. That wouldn't have hit the radar screen unless we had a reason for it. So I think that's the other thing. We're developing these things absent other people's involvement. And in some ways, I think it's good to be developing some gifts without everyone knowing, because I think when everyone knows what we're doing, the challenge is now they're looking. If you tell people at the start of the meeting, so I'm doing this meeting a little differently today. Now they're looking versus you just do it differently. And I fall into that trap all the time. When I was teaching college, I'd be like, I did this lecture this way this morning, but this afternoon, I'd like to do it a little differently. Like they care. And then they would be like hypercritical because or they go that afternoon and talk to someone in the other class and go, how do you do it with you? Ooh, I like that better. I don't like this.
Well, maybe they walked in having talked to someone who said I fell asleep in class.
Right.
And when they walked in and you said you were going to do it different, they were like, oh, I guess maybe I'll pay attention now for a little bit.
For the record, no one fell asleep in my class ever.
Ever?
The only time someone fell asleep in one of my classes was one of my mentor instructors was coming to evaluate me one night. He fell asleep in the middle of class and was snoring so loudly, I dismissed the class and sat there and waited for him to wake up. Needless to say, I got a great recommendation from that.
Maybe could have gone other ways.
It could have. That was a long time ago.
Well, yeah, you never know. Well, and I think that it's interesting. I think one of the other challenges, sometimes sharing our gifts is an opportunity to develop them. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And sometimes we choose not to share them, which means we've chosen not to develop them and could hold us back from other opportunities. I used to sing a lot in high school. That was something that it was a gift I had, I think, for a while, and I like to do it.
And then as I got in one of those groups, like on Pitch Perfect.
No, I was not.
Were you a treble maker?
No, I was definitely not that.
What's the Hamilton?
Acapella groups?
Yeah.
The Hamiltones is one. The Buffers is another.
The what? What was the second one?
The Buffers.
The Buffers.
Yeah. And I chose not to do that for whatever reason. I think because I tried out for the choir and wasn't chosen. And so I said, oh, okay, it's time to move on. And yet, there were times when they were looking for people. I mean, I was in athletics for forever, and we were always looking for people to sing the national anthem. And I kept that gift hidden. Whenever sometimes you'd want to sing, like happy birthday, and somebody turned and say, wow, you've got a nice voice. And I'd be like, yeah, I just try not to. That's one of the things I try not to share. And I used to do that as like almost a badge of honor. It's like, I got this hidden gift that nobody knows about. And I think that as I think back on that now, I think it was a missed opportunity, that other things may have come up that I may have really enjoyed, that I might have really been able to learn from, that I wasn't able to participate in because I chose to keep that gift quiet. And
Tell me, Tom, was it a missed opportunity or just a different opportunity?
Well, I think it was a missed opportunity.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Well, we've taken you on a different path. Who's to say it was better or worse? Miss suggests that you missed something better, right?
Not necessarily. Miss just means you didn't get an opportunity to do it.
Okay.
I'd never provided people with the knowledge of that gift, and so they may have had opportunities for me to share it. So I think that's
okay.
Missed.
All right.
I think that I'm not sure I'm not sure you're missed as a judgment.
Okay.
Sure. I have to think more about that. That's fair.
All right. I'm trying to keep you on your toes today.
Yeah, good luck. That was like when we had a listener who questioned my equation of what was real. For those of you who don't know, I believe that what is real for each of us is our knowledge, experience, and perspective. We had someone who thought there was another piece to it, so we brought them on, and I think I did a good job defending my equation. I think
that was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. We haven't talked about K plus E plus P equals R in a long time.
No,
I talk about it. We talk about it. We talk around it.
Yes. So what's your one thing today when we talk about the challenges in developing your gifts?
I think I think the challenge is, I'm going to go with the challenge is trying to figure out how you're going to develop it. I think that's the one I'm going to choose today. Because I think there's so many options that it makes it really difficult. We talk about the people that we coach. There are a lot of coaches, a lot of business coaches, nonprofit coaches, people who deal with speaking, coaching speakers or leaders or whatever. And sometimes it's hard to figure out who you want to choose to help you develop your gifts, because there are so many options. It's kind of like choosing a college. People look at ratings and think that that's the only way to decide. And yet all you have to do is look at the alumni roster of just about any college out there. And there are people who have definitely leveraged the opportunity they have and been extremely successful at what they wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so no matter your choice, there's an opportunity out there if you choose to take advantage of it. And I think part of it is if you're willing to develop all the gifts that you have, or maybe choose one that you want to focus on and see all the other gifts that come along as you develop that. And that's not easy to do. It's hard when you're looking at multiple options that you really believe is going to have a significant impact on how you develop that gift, and trying to not only make the choice and then go forward with it without judging the decision or the results in the moment.
I would agree. It is challenging. I would say my one thing is that you get a lot of feedback about what gifts to develop, and that often if you listen to all the other people, it's contradictory, or they're telling you what they see as your gifts and they may or may not be what you think your gifts are. And I think the more I've really focused on the gifts that I believe I bring to the world, the better things have gotten for me in terms of, I know it's a judgment, but I think it's better in the sense that I have control over what I'm doing in some ways, and I also have ways to mark that progress. If I'm constantly doing what everyone else says are my gifts, I'm not going to move in a direction forward very quickly, because you're going to tell me do this, someone else is going to tell me to do that, third person is going to tell me a third thing. And I've been through that in my career. And at the end, you just get frustrated because, like, well, okay, what am I doing here? And it kind of sucks the passion out because you're not really improving.
Yes. And I think one of the things about that, as I was listening to you share that, the thing that struck me was them telling you what you should do.
Right.
It's interesting. This conversation with a student yesterday, as I was having a discussion about who I was and how the way I operate. And I even said, look, I'm not going to tell you what to do. Right. And I can share with you what I did, how I chose my pathway. I said, but we're all different. What's real for us is different. And I think that if you had other people ask you questions so that you discovered a gift that you had that you didn't realize because it's something that they had seen in you, that you might think about it differently. Because of course, when people are telling you what your gifts are, you're like, yes, you get a million different options. I think when people ask you questions that say, make you reconsider a little bit about a gift that you weren't certain you had, that they see highly, might change your perspective around it.
Wow. We covered a lot of ground.
Yes, indeed. As always, we're trying to help people travel a pathway. The more ground we can cover, the more opportunities we have to get closer to our definition of success.
And tomorrow we have Discoveries of the Week. My favorite. Can't wait.
Bob's favorite show is tomorrow.
Edge of my seat.
Have you written down what your discovery is yet or no?
I've got 3 that I've got to narrow it down to 1. Working on it.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Well, we hope that you all will also consider what are your discoveries of the week. And if you have other thoughts you'd like to share, or your antidote around the challenges around developing your gifts, or maybe a challenge that you've had trying to discover your gift, share it with someone else. They may have been in a similar situation, or share it in the comments. Sorry. because they may have had a similar situation that they might be able to offer you at least some insight into how they did it, which might give you some new ideas around how you might move forward from that challenge. And of course, if you're listening to the podcast, or if you just don't feel like sharing it broadly in the social media that you're listening to or following us on, you can go to one of our private groups. You can either go to LinkedIn if you're that person and go to the Renegade Success Network for Leaders. You can share your thoughts and ideas there. Or if you're a Facebook person, go to the Ring of Renegades. You can go in there and share your thoughts and ideas that may help someone else with a challenge that they're facing, or share your challenge. And maybe someone there will come up with some thoughts or some ideas or even some really good questions to help you try to figure out how to take your next step along your own unique pathway to success. So we look forward to seeing you inside those groups, or we'll see you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Eastern Time, for our next episode of today's Antidote. Have a great day, everyone.
Hey, embrace the renegading you. It's worth it.
It's worth it. I always think about that when you say that. I don't know why. There's just something about it that I was like, is that a judgment? Is that are you telling them what to do? Or are you helping them discover that it might be valuable for them?
I encourage you strongly to embrace the renegading you. It doesn't have the same zest.
You also didn't say it with the same zest.
Would you do me a favor, please, and embrace the renegading you? Perhaps if you have some downtime this afternoon, you could embrace the renegading you. I feel like I'm doing radio slogans.
Maybe. We're working on the closing line.
That's it. I thought we had it. Embrace the renegading you. End the story. But apparently we've got to go back to the drawing board.
I like that.
Okay.
I'm just trying to think on it's worth it.
Okay. I can remove that.
This is just feedback. Thoughts. I'm not telling you what to do.
It's a partnership. If you're not happy, I'm not happy.
Okay. We'll have to think more about that. All right, everyone. Enough of our silly banter. Go out and make it a great day. We'll see you soon. Thanks for listening to today's Antidote, powered by the Renegade Success Network. The Renegade Success Network helps you confidently create your own unique pathway to success. To learn more about the Renegade Success Network and how you can take your next step, follow us on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, or join the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. For full details on how you can join our community, go to renegadesuccessnetwork.com. Embrace the renegade in you.